Hello, everyone. Jesus McDonald here. We're doing part two of what it's like to work as a visual designer. And I have Alex Lopez, who's a visual designer himself, owner of Concept Art Factory. How you doing today, Alex?
I'm doing good, Jesus.
So if you guys haven't seen part one, go back to our YouTube channel, look in the videos, and you'll see part one there. This is pretty much part two. And what we're going to talk about is pretty much how to have self-awareness and how to identify that in the design industry, and also how to communicate with your clients and coworkers. You want to take it away, Alex?
Sure. Where do you want me to start, though?
I like the self-awareness. I think that's big because we talked a lot about on the first video on just fears, emotions.
Oh, yeah.
And, emotions are everything. You also mentioned relationships are everything too, right? So when you're doing a project, you want to make sure you're doing it because it's all about the relationship more than the project itself.
Okay. Well, just expand on it. Okay. So I think the last time we talked about being self-aware makes you client-aware, because when it comes to design, it's not just coming up with a great design, but it's understanding people. And it's very difficult to understand people unless you understand yourself. And part of the self-awareness too is helpful for your career and just you as a development, as a person, as an artist, father, husband, partner, if you still live with your parents. I know I'm 50, almost 50. I don't live with my parents. Okay. But here's the thing.
Good. I was going to question that, but
man, I tried to milk that thing for a long time to save a ton of money.
Yeah.
That is like, when are you going to leave? So I think one of the things is, one of the things you're going to think about is the reason why that self-awareness is very key. You will find out your own boundaries and where to start and where you're going to grow.
I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's the part where like I said, that was a part where it held me back from, actually really growing in my career as an artist. The times I was not wanting to hear the truth, or areas where I needed someone to give me input, were the times where my career was not doing well. And this was evident in my first few years as a designer, because you're so nervous about you. And I think my thing was, I was so nervous about looking bad, because I always had this fear, like, are they going to fire me? Are they going to fire me? I mean, my first video game job, I got laid off. But I had guys that worked in the industry, and they're like, this happens to us all the time. I said, what is wrong with you people? This is like my real first job. and then that was the part where I was like, and then I think that's the part where you start to have those fears again, like, when am I going to get laid off? And you don't focus on taking advantage and living for the present. You're so focused and worried about the future.
And why do you think that is? I mean, I know that's a common thing. Even with this whole COVID situation, it's so companies laying people off, like there's a lot of uncertainty with the future, right? So there's, fears are up, right? We don't know what tomorrow's going to bring us. But what do you think that is in the design industry, that there's a lot of fears of the future when you're working with a project on hand?
I think one of the things is, I started to realize that when you have stress at work, it actually makes your work even harder. Because you're using a lot of mental energy, right? And I think that's the part where, think of all the stresses in your life, right? My wife nagging me, I forgot to do something at home, and then you go to work, right? You're worried about, you lose your focus on giving 100% to your customer at that moment in time. Because your project and what you're working on in front of you has nothing to do with what your boss is thinking in that moment in time. He's probably not even thinking about it. There was times when I remember I've been so insecure at work, I'd see my boss walk by. I said, oh my gosh, what is he thinking of me right now? He just looked at my direction. Right? No one talks about that junk, right?
Right.
Yeah. And
or like, oh my gosh, he's coming. Let me start typing.
I found out from one of my designers, right? And competitiveness adds extra stress. Right?
Yes.
You're like so competitive. I was like that when I was first becoming a manager. And then, like say you and me are hanging out, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're just hanging out. And then you get a pat in your head. We're both 5-year-old kids. You get a pat in the head. And you go, hey, Jesus, Jesus did a better job at basketball. And I'm going to give him his lollipop. And I'm ticked, right? You just feel, and you start getting competitive. Like, man, you know what? That's messed up. Jesus has always been taller than me. He's still taller than me to this day. So what ends up happening, instead of focusing on you growing, you're more jealous of not getting the prize rather than you growing. So when all these exterior things affect you and you don't focus on your work, it really messes you up. And the competitiveness, you know what that does too? It hinders you from actually learning and growing from others.
I can see that. I can see that. Because you're trying to be ahead of the competition. And if you see people as the competition, you're not looking to grow, you're looking to be better than them, right? And then you don't see your need for them.
Yeah, and we don't slow down enough to even think about that.
But yes. But what's also funny about that too is it becomes all about you. It's selfish.
It's true. I mean, honestly, like even to this day, I have to make sure that my 3 best friends don't get all the attention, me, myself, and I. That's everybody's best friend. And it's part of like the psychology about it too, right? This is really important as a designer, is to understand how people think. It's kind of like the reptilian brain. It just reacts towards feelings. It's usually about you.
Right.
Right. And then, I know we're going to lead into the next part. That's going to be another part we'll talk about, is reaction versus response. So, I'll discuss that, but I think that's the part where self-awareness is. Are you willing to sit down and go, why do I feel so insecure when I see that person there? Why do I feel insecure about the person? And you know what else competitiveness does too? Competitiveness actually makes us lash out at people in a unproductive way. And you're not willing to tell the truth because you're so angry in your own mind, how competitive and angry and jealous you are of that person, right?
Totally.
And the only person you're actually fighting is you. And that person's like, hey, Alex, how's your day going? Oh, I really hate you, in your mind. I hate you so much. I know, I don't know why. And another thing too, you start getting paranoid at work. This conversation is actually stressing me out because it reminds me of all the things I did at work. You start
bringing up the past for you.
So like we both have the same parents, right? We'll do the 5-year-old kid again. Okay. And all of a sudden, mom goes, Jesus, you want to go to the store with me? Why does Jesus get to go to the store with me? And even though our dad goes, hey, Alex, you get to go change oil with me, but I still get to hang out with him. So no matter what you get, or he's willing to give me ice cream, you're going to the store. Competitiveness never lets you appreciate what you personally have because you're so focused on another person.
I like
and why
that.
would I want to learn from you?
Right.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of insight there and a lot of truths about that, right? In the environment at work, coworkers, even when you speak to clients, that heart comes out, like people are aware, right? And you might not say, hey, I'm not competitive, but what's overflowing from your mouth is competitiveness, right? People feel it, right? You don't have to say it. People feel it. So what are some good practicals, right? Because I'm sure there's people that are listening and they're probably like, great, I want to change. How do I become a better visual designer and becoming self-aware?
Don't talk to people.
It's like the opposite. Just totally avoid everyone.
I'm kidding. No, you and I always joke about this. This is really fun. I love our talks. This is how. To let you guys know, this is how me and Jesus talk about professional stuff.
We talk about this all the time.
Yes, and mostly when he knows that his wife is mad at him. Alex, what do I do? Get advice from me and my wife. But actually, he gives me a ton of advice when he was younger. We'll talk about that later. But I think one of the things that you had brought up, I think, with just being emotionally aware in that area. I think my advice would be is not to be afraid to tell the truth and how you're bringing about being able to tell the truth. Because people cannot relate to someone who always thinks they know everything.
Right.
This leads us to our conversation, and your role as a designer, as that person's client. Your client could be your boss. Your client, you're working together with your boss and your manager. Your client could be the freelance job that you're working on at that point. What people love is when you take the time to learn, you're interested in them learning about them. And another part too is I'll backtrack a little bit. And the part that too is says, hey, you know what? Be honest and say, I don't know really anything about your industry. You know how people feel appreciated? Let me hear about you, and you can teach me.
That's exactly what we teach.
Exactly.
Even our sales reps is find out what the nature of the business is, but ask a ton of questions. Just ask a lot of questions. You're not a know-it-all.
Yeah. And even outside of the business too, one of the things I always ask, because I get stuck in asking clients questions. I have a set of questions that I do for my branding. And you and I work together at JRM too. You've helped me a ton in that area and being able to communicate. I'm still jealous because you're younger. Okay, so another part too is I think one of the things is one of the key things I learned was always asking why. After the answer, you go, why? Why did you get into this business? What is part of the why question too? Why and what coincide together? Because
yes,
what makes you passionate about your business? Because that's the part where you can actually, that information is information that you write down and take notes when you're doing research for that company. Because
that's good. Now, if you're just a designer working for a company and say you're not running your own business, right? You can still write this down, right? Like, why am I fearful? Why am I focused so much on my boss? Are there any other questions that I should be asking myself if I'm the designer?
Well, one of the
help me
things,
be more self-aware.
One of the things is too, why did this bother me? Like, take the time to evaluate the end of your day or after meetings. Just take a couple minutes because, man, is there something I didn't say in the meeting I should have said? Or am I bothered by this? Why am I bothered by this? You know, one of the hardest things I have to teach designers, which I learned this from a senior guy when I was an art director, or when I started managing artists, was teaching them to learn how to take criticism. Because criticism is actually one of the key factors of getting bitter. We don't see it as what we make it as about. We don't see it as something where I don't see it as an artist at the times. I get my ego burst all the time. I'm like bubble boy that lasts for 2 seconds. Someone's always popping a pin, but instead of that pin is like maybe a change into some kind of barbell that's working me out to get better and stronger.
I like that.
So you got to think of it this way. No matter what kind of criticism you had, even if you don't like the person, find the truth that's in it and grow. One of the stories that I had is I was trying to be a comic book artist and I was getting shut down by I went to multiple conventions. You know, this is the advantage of being the youngest. You have your older siblings who will take care of you because you seem so helpless. So my brother was flying me all over the place. We'd go to LA, San Diego, go to comic conventions, right? You know, being the best in your high school class doesn't mean anything, and being one of the best ones, even in your college class, didn't mean anything. Dude, when you see real professionals, they look at your portfolio. I said, I got this. They like, you need to work this. They do it in 30 seconds. And you've been waiting in line for over an hour just to have these guys look at your portfolio in less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
I went through multiple conventions. What I did was I took the time to write down everything. So right before I became a video game designer, no one was giving business cards. And I think there was one famous artist, it may have been Travis Sherris, but I started getting business cards the same time as that guy because I took the time to take that criticism and learn. Marvel Comics gave me a card, DC Comics, and Dark Horse. Marvel and Dark Horse were my favorite because I'm a huge Aliens fan because they were thinking about me doing Predators versus Alien. And then Marvel, I was doing sample scripts already, but I ended up designing video games for a living and did Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
So
you have a lot of good work experience.
Now, I didn't get to work for the comic book companies, but at least it was nice to be considered, considering I was getting shut down all the time. I was getting business cards all over the place.
Now, are there any other games that you've worked on for the artwork?
A ton. I mean, I have a lot more failed games that didn't go well. Like I said, and I worked on 2K games. I worked on partial games for Tencent,
Hmm.
Konami. I like saying Konami because everyone thinks I worked on Metal Gear Solid, but no, I don't.
That would be a sick game to have
But
worked on.
or I can lie to everybody. Says, you know, I was working for the company. No, did you work on Metal Gear Solid? I said, well, you know, I was part of the company.
Go around the question.
Our next video is how to manipulate your boss and others.
Wow. You're so bad.
But you know what's amazing? That it led to other things too, because of my experience in fantasy art and games, and I always posting my artwork. It led for me to doing, Alex, I didn't realize you design characters in games, and it led me to even later on working in one of my favorite projects we can discuss later about working on a project for Wendys. You know,
Yes.
so that was awesome. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about Wendys. How did that project?
So I was doing a lot of freelance work, right? And then you and I were working together at JRM.
You're right.
So this is the great story for people to hear about learning process. As much as I did sales before and I'm promoting my stuff, I've never learned how to be able to do sales and stuff until I started working with Jesus and JRM. You know, and he would teach me all this stuff. And he did a great job having proposals, setting everything up. I said, I wish you were born 10 years before me so I can actually learn from you. Why were you in my life 10 years ago, right? So I got a phone call out of nowhere from Wendys. They said, hey, we need to do this promo artwork. And I said, how did you find my artwork? I said, oh, we found your artwork on ArtStation. I said, I haven't touched that thing for 2 years. Yeah. Right? I said, what? And then so this is the buildup of all. That's
interesting. Wow.
Learned, right? And I said, wait a minute, Jesus has great proposals. He knows all this legal stuff because he takes advantage of his wife as a CPA too. But it's okay. Right? So what ended up happening was that Monday they contacted me. They contacted me on Wednesday and they said, hey, Alex, we need to get a proposal for you on Friday. And
they were desperate. They were like, we're ready to go.
Yes. And I thought it was just going to be like a movie poster or promotion, which I've done before. It would be almost like doing a commission.
Yes.
And then I didn't know how big this project was. And I said, and then my wife goes, on Friday, honey, are you ready to go camping? I went, what? That's insane. So this is where relationships and friends come. I said, dude, I don't even know what to do from here. How am I going to set up a proposal? So I think, no, they needed it on Monday or I think they needed it on Friday because they were going to go over the weekend.
And you did go camping.
I did go camping, remember?
No cell phone service.
No cell phone service. So I drove up in the mountains, right? Set everything up that night for dinner. I told my wife, I said, I'm leaving at 4 a.m. until I get down to civilization where I can get cell phone service. I'm going to go to the closest Pete's Coffee nearby.
I can totally see you going like this.
Yeah, and I'm contacting Jesus was like, okay, there's Jesus who's a savior. He had almost the same name as Jesus, right? He was my savior at that time. And then he was like, Jesus, I was contacting him and said, dude, I said, I got you covered, Alex. Just use the JRM proposal as an outline. Because of his experience in his work, I made a proposal that none of the other companies had. Trust me, there was probably other companies I know friends that own their own design companies who have far more artists than me. I was only by myself, and they probably had 20 concept artists. I mean, the guys that own it, my friends, they probably don't even draw anymore. They're like, we got this. But because of the proposal and letting other people help me, I used Jesus's outline, my background as an art director from previous companies and how to schedule things. And then they said, Alex, because one of the things they asked me is, Alex, we need 1 poster and 10 characters in this amount of time. Here's another thing that's very important. In our conversation, she said she wanted a proposal from me. I was realistic. I said, can you give me your timeline? This is where experience comes in. I didn't have to think about it. I said, realistically, I just want to let you know, based on your timeline, no matter how big a team is, you're going to have your 1 promo poster, but you can't have your 10 characters. You'll have a maximum of 3 equivalent. You'll have 3, but you can push to 5 characters.
And what do they want you to build out for them?
They were doing a promotion because their promotion was based off of one of their biggest demographics are, I think, which is cool now, nerds, because I'm a nerd. Their thing was, their demographic are people who do role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes.
Yes, and from 13 to 35, some crazy thing like that. That's another thing that I had to understand, that demographic. So because I love games and I always do research, even if I'm not working on games, I'm always keeping up with technology and what's the current trend. Right. It's very helpful. So that was their demographic. They said, we just need this promo and we want to launch it at the Comic-Con in New York. I was like, okay, it's another poster. I didn't think it was going to be that big, but I didn't realize it was a worldwide campaign.
That's huge.
Yeah. So that's what they didn't tell me after I got the job. I found out more. I said, whoa, this is actually pretty big. You know what I did for them in the proposal? I actually said, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to do your schedule for you to show you this. Even if you're going to get a team, she loved the fact that I was honest. I wasn't a yes man, which is a big issue for me. I over promised and never able to pull through because I just want the job rather than being completely honest. And I was just honest with her. I said, you're going to get this and this is what it's going to be. I actually did a schedule for her, including the proposal. That Monday, she went to the executives, looked it over, talked to the executives at Wendys. They took my proposal.
Wow.
Then
I realized I didn't even know about all these details. So
yeah, you played a huge role, dude.
This is inspiring and also just exciting to just hear about all the details, because I didn't know about those little details. I just remember you calling me twice, and I was like, oh man, I hope this guy's okay. I hope a bear didn't eat him. In the woods. I'm like, Alex, what's going on? You're like, hey, I need a proposal or something like that. I was like, dude, just use mine as the base. And then you're like, yeah, send it over. Exactly. And I was already in front of my computer. I was literally like, okay, there, send.
Well, that was awesome, because that's how you know why it's so important that you need to rely on other people to help you. All right.
Totally.
And then I think that's the willingness to learn, because you're younger than me. I'm so insecure. I don't like younger people teaching me stuff. But dude, I wouldn't be where I'm at with my business right now if it weren't for you working with JRM, as a consultant, right? And being able to, where my business has never been this before, where I'm branching out to more stuff for Concept Art Factory.
So you make a really good point.
Yeah.
I don't want to make you feel old, but how old are you?
49.
You're 49. You're an experienced visual designer, right? And you do branding. So at 49, why do you have the deep humility that you have right now? Because in our friendship, in our working relationship, that's one thing. And for those that are listening, that's one thing I really admire about Alex Lopez is he's just really honest and humble. I've never worked with anyone. I've never had a friend that had this level of depth with, one, self-awareness, but also just once he's aware, he's honest. And if you're not a good fit for him, he'll tell you, but he'll give you solutions at the same time. But at 49, why do you choose humility, or why do you choose to have a humble heart? Like, what motivates you to do that?
I think just like everyone else, it's a part of the hero's journey for everybody, because no one starts off like that. Yes. I started off my industry in the mid-20s and started go that. And another part too is the sooner you learn this is the reason why when I was having the talk with the university students, college students, high school students, when I tell them this, I tell them these things so they can learn this sooner, because they will hear that part. Yeah, and I think another part too is maybe the reason why is too, when I stopped learning, I actually shared this with them. That's when it's time for me to retire from my industry, because and as I'm learning and I'm teaching people these things, not just how to design stuff, but what it's like to really work in the industry, it actually helps me grow more. That's the reason why, like I said, I use the martial arts mentality. When you teach other people, you start to grow more. And then when you learn more about the person you're teaching, like I did with Konami, with my 2 junior and mid-level artists that taught me how to do environmental art, you start to add more to your skill set. That's the reason why you see all these kung fu movies, which is true in real life. Like the old man's beating up the guy who looks young, looks all buff. all of a sudden does some crazy move, right? Like some kind of Kung Fu Panda move, when the finger death touch or whatever, and everyone explodes. It's the same thing. I think that's the part where if you haven't that's the part we're talking about. We're going to see in the topic of self-awareness. That's how you know if you become more prideful as you grow, you not appreciate where you're at currently, or you haven't grown because you're still focused on the mentality you had 10 years, 20 years ago and never dealt with it.
Wow. That's really good advice.
Did I just say that?
No.
Good thing we're recording, if I can remember.
Oh, I didn't even know we were recording. No, I was playing. So
yeah,
I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of maybe someone that wants to be a designer or is already a designer and wants to take it to the next level, right? Mm-hmm. Self-awareness is huge, right? Because they want to make sure that they're considering their clients or their coworkers, right? Mm-hmm. Their boss. They're trying to make it about relationships, right? They want to grow in this area. Now, say they listen this far to our video and they are doing the steps, the practicals, they're to be more self-aware of their emotions. Now, what if they get overwhelmed by seeing a lot of truths about themselves, right? I'm sure you've gotten there before where you felt overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I'm fearful about all these things from A to Z. Like what helps? Yeah. So what do you do when you feel overwhelmed? Because if we're going after self-awareness, we're going to get overwhelmed by all the truth that we see, right? And then we can get depressed by seeing too much truth about ourselves. We can look at them as flaws, right?
Yeah.
But what's a simple practical, or what can we do from being overwhelmed to moving forward?
One thing before you start getting overwhelmed, take a deep breath and exhale.
That's funny because I've been giving advice to people to hold their breath for 30 minutes. And that doesn't work.
No. Actually, just take a breath and slow down, because you want to be able to take it little by little, and it's part of the journey. I think the problem is, I think when we get overwhelmed with all this information coming in, we want to change everything all at once.
ASAP.
And then what ends up happening is too, the other part of self-awareness too, when you start to see the truth about yourself, there is a fear of the bubble, like we talked about,
right,
of who you thought you were, then finally seeing the truth of you, who you were. It makes it very difficult and makes you overwhelmed, rather than going, I've always been like this. Now it just gives me an opportunity to change.
Right. And it can discourage a lot of people too, right?
Oh my gosh. You're talking to a guy with like ADD and depression. I deal with that stuff all the time. That's a part of my self-awareness too, is my physical and mental health and emotional limits. When I was aware of that, then I knew when to say no, when to say yes to stuff, which is still a challenge for me.
So I appreciate you sharing that stuff.
Yeah. And I think that's the part I even share that in my talks, because it's very important that your clients and the people that are there see you as a normal human being. You're not something you're not a thing. You're a person just like them that can relate to them, and it endears their heart to you. So in the practical sense, choose one thing at a time that you're going to just change gradually, because victories come, sometimes that small victory and being able to forgive yourself and go, hey, you know what? And taking the time to understand there are other people, and if you feel like other people don't love you, you need to actually admit that, like, hey, just acknowledge that there are people that do appreciate you, and don't think beyond that. Because that's the part where there is a danger of self-awareness, but I'd rather hear the truth and grow than never. That's the reason why I haven't grown as much as I should have, or what I thought I should have in the industry, but that's part of my journey. There are guys far more experienced than me. We both came in the industry together. We worked with Sega, 2K games. Yeah, they're leading the whole studio in EA right now. He's trying to fly me over there, to China. And I was just like, oh, really? That's good. You don't have 3 kids and all this stuff, but
you're living the life.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? He respected the fact that, hey, you chose a certain thing, and you got to be honest about what your success is. My success is, yeah, my career can only last so long, but my success is is that my kids, my family see me as a hard worker,
Mm,
and my family is my first priority outside of being in this podcast, which is the greatest podcast in ever. And you guys should all subscribe.
I appreciate that. That was some really good advertisement right there. I didn't even have to pay for that one.
That's true. I'm really good at lying too. I'm
Wow.
just kidding. No,
I'm gonna go get a lawyer now.
but I
So
think
just to sum up what you're saying, because you're saying
yeah,
a lot of great things,
yeah,
is the more truth you tell yourself, which goes with the self-awareness, the more you're gonna grow personally,
mhm,
right? And the more you'll be closer in relationships, right? But also not being too hard on yourself. That helps you to move forward too. Being content with where you're at. Also having your priorities on straight. That was really big what you touched. Family over career. Because here in Silicon Valley,
yeah,
it's career and family might not even be number two. Spouse might not be number two. Kids might not be there. They might be towards the end of the list, unfortunately.
yeah.
So that's really, really good. I value that. And that's really good, the priorities list. Now, if you don't see truths about yourself and say you're living a lie, you just create distance in relationships and you're in your own bubble, which can be very lonely, right?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two things that I see from based on what you just shared.
Yeah. So
Is that pretty accurate?
yes, and I want to share a story. It was one of my first video game jobs. It was awesome. We launched this, one of the best sports games ever. And one of the people I knew, he was a manager, boss, owner. He got all the success he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Finally blew out all the other video game companies. But as soon as the game launched, his wife and kid left him.
That's sad.
That was a huge wake up call for me.
Wow.
And I said, there are going to be successful people out there that will be another Bill Gates, whatever. I mean, everyone's life looks great on Facebook and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when I found out that all these companies were praising their company, I was grateful to be part of these incredible launches. But it was a wake up call to just really see the truth is, do I really want this?
Hmm.
And is it worth it? And that's changed my attitude and how like I said, I never put the product above people because people are the ones who build the product.
That's awesome. I love that feedback. I have one last question for you. And it's more for advice for people that are watching this video.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's people, maybe high school, college, or maybe they're already professionals in the industry that want to become art directors. You were an art director at Walt Disney. Is there any advice that you can give them on how to become an art director?
Be a good follower first and learner. I know everyone wants to have this in management, but if you don't enjoy producing work and artwork, it's going to be impossible to inspire other people to do it. I would be what would you call a working art director or working lead. I do some of the artwork, but I always remember that I have to, as much as I can. It's easier for me to be a production artist, honestly, and not talk to people. But that when they see that you're in the trenches with them, that's what makes you a great leader. That's what makes you great influence in your family, friends. Is less about what you say, it's about what you do.
I love that. Actions speak louder than words.
Definitely, because I've said a ton of stuff. Look at my kids. They look at me as like the biggest hypocrite ever.
Wow.
I mean, it's true, right? They're like, Dad, are you serious? You're telling us not to have our devices on and on? I said, what are you doing? And they're like, look at me, Dad, what are you doing? I said, I'm on my device, I know, but I'm the boss. And
you start going over management role now.
all of a sudden, I see this face come up. That's my wife looking at me, mad like this, looking down in the eyes. I'm like, okay, I'm putting my device away.
The story of Alex's life.
My wife keeps me straight, man. Honestly,
that's good.
She's awesome. But we should do a part 3 because there's another part I want to talk about too. Guess what? How to manage people, because we haven't finished all our topic yet. And what's the difference between managing up and managing down? And managing yourself. That's another good topic to talk about.
Managing up and managing down.
And managing yourself.
and managing yourself.
Yeah, because we still haven't touched the point of how all this self-awareness, how you can apply it in working with your clients. We haven't talked about that yet, and it's
That's
going
true.
long.
Let's do that as a part 3.
So hopefully this, you see the way I did the Jedi mind trick. You're the host, but I'm telling you what to do. So
Yeah,
that's a lot of
I totally saw how you just took over and controlled the situation right now. That's a senior art director right there.
Yeah, there are no droids here.
No what?
This pass. You know, Obi-Wan's doing the hand waving.
Yes, let's do a part 3 because there's a lot of great questions to ask, right?
Yeah.
And for those that are watching, listening, thank you for that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And also in the description of this video, we're going to also give you guys a link to Alex's artwork for the Wendys project. And then also a link to his website, which we're currently redesigning his website here at JRM Web Marketing. Don't judge the website. We're still doing the redesign on it. We don't want to make him feel insecure, so don't leave any comments about his website. At least not yet.
I'm feeling a taste of self-awareness and insecurity right now, as you just said that. Thank you. Thank you.
I just wanted you to deal with truth, so you wouldn't lie to yourself.
And honestly, it's awesome because Jesus has gotten some great stories. So I'm going to probably put this video on my channel too as well, so to make sure we're promoting his channel and the other one. And another thing too is, man, hopefully that I'm looking forward to us even talking to other people in the industry, because I think what's really good is the way we're talking right now. This is how actually Jesus and I really talk. We ask each other questions. What's this client going to need?
Right.
And
no, definitely. We should do this with other professionals in the industries too. We have no, just us. Just keep it us. Yeah, we'll have other business owners, other marketers. We'll have entrepreneurs and CEOs also on the show.
And engineers. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. All right, Alex. Well, I'll let you go so you don't get hangry. And thank you for your time. It's always a pleasure.
Always. Hey, thanks, Jesus.
Yep. Have a good one.
Peace.